Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Nikki arranges a romantic surprise for Victor, while Claire and Audra almost blow each other away. When Holden tells Audra to go on at society, she naturally pulls up a chair to poke Claire, who is careless and spills her drink. Holden's continued use of the old Vespa pickup line is ridiculed by Audra, who also questions Kyle's reaction. As realization sets in, Audra surmises that Claire is aware of the truth and has broken up with Kyle, the cheater. Holden, Audra, Claire. Go away, slurs Claire. She ran into Kyle earlier, Audra teases. Claire denies she dumped him and calls her a bitter, cruel woman. Highly amused, Audra wonders what Kyle would think of their brief encounter. They are only buddies, Holden complains. They were just talking about what a joke she is, Claire explains. Audra, Holden, Claire. Claire, who is lolling across the bar, asks Audra whether she ever gets tired of lying when she hints that Kyle was about to kiss her again tonight. Holden stayed in town because of her too, Audra tells her. Claire is alone and wonders where Nate is. Does he believe she is as pitiful as the others? Holden steps in as Audra lunges towards her. Audra header for Claire. Holden's struggle. As Audra remembers her attempt to poison the entire Newman clan, Claire insults her by saying she can handle her own problems. Perhaps Kyle should open his eyes rather than the other way around. Claire stumbles to her feet and puts on a suitably ominous look. She murmurs, "Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm the one who poses a threat. Perhaps you should keep an eye on yourself." Holden makes an attempt to separate Claire from Audra, and he succeeds after a few more taunts. What surprises Nikki? Wearing a scarlet gown that reaches her floor, Nikki welcomes Victor at the ranch. Now it's his turn to be pampered and taken advantage of. Nikki raises a glass of non-alcoholic bubbly in honor of her significant other. Victor needed this break from the storm as he ate his dinner. As they discuss their recent struggles, Nikki reminds her husband that he attempted to sabotage Kyle and Claire's relationship and that Kane is looming over them. Victor is prepared to receive him. He has no idea who he is interacting with. Nikki. Victor. Victor is not amenable to Nikki's attempts to draw comparisons between their own love and that of Kyle and Claire. Victor finds a ring in the last oyster and is urged to eat it. He made it feasible for Nikki to live the kind of life she had never imagined. Victor breaks down in tears. He is reminded by Nikki of the present he gave her on their first Christmas. She takes out a gift because she wants him to feel the same way. Victor displays a brand new leather jacket. Nikki. Victor. This evening, Victor tells his wife he loves her, but he acknowledges that he suspects she is saying this to ensure he stops pursuing Kyle. He tells her that Kane Ashby is on his mind. He's attempting to ascertain his intentions and how to exploit them. Nikki finds out that Madame DeLeon was duped by Colin. Kane might be involved, and if he doesn't comply with Victor's wishes, it could destroy what little reputation he still has. Victor hugs Nikki and promises to outdo her. She is certain. They leisurely dance and kiss while they reminisce about a beautiful moment. Nikki. Victor's flashback. Kane, what are you up to with Michael? He praises Michael for coming and serves drinks on the Kane train. They argue over whether it was a wise choice. Michael accuses Kane of enjoying turmoil and controlling the information flow to cause difficulties after recounting his terrible return. What do you want? Kane says. Answers, hedges Michael. He invited him and Lauren to Nice, but why? Kane regrets not being able to make his plans known as intended. Michael wonders why he invited him there tonight, simplifying. Michael. Kane. Kane asks Michael why he came there tonight, flipping the script. Michael dismisses his curiosity with a shrug. Kane needles that he is no longer employed. I'm retired, Michael responds. Kane doesn't believe it. He is too devoted to the game. We should make use of his skill set. He acknowledges that he wants to employ Michael as a fixer. He fulfills every requirement. Kane. Since Victor didn't return his allegiance, Kane doesn't hold the lawyer responsible for leaving him. Kane is confident that Michael might resume his favorite work if the correct conditions are met. Michael understands that he invited him to Nice in order to assess the situation between him and Victor. He's not interested if that's true. Michael. Shut up. After asking Michael to add his phone number to his contacts, Kane texts him an offer that might be too good to pass up. Michael is curious about what he would be doing. Has there been a crime? Do you want me to assist you in fixing that? Kane hints that his offer is only the beginning, but he is obviously not allowed to reveal anything until he has attorney-client privilege. Is Claire going to get the dirt? Holden asks Esther to get him and Claire coffee at Crimson Lights. Holden, Esther, Claire. Claire chuckles as she remembers yelling at Audra at their table and then decides she shouldn't have gotten into a fight with her. Holden reassures the blonde that Audra deserves all of the things she flung at her while she moans. Claire wishes she could put her past behind her. Holden makes an effort to comfort her. I tried to kill people, Claire blurts. Holden rallies, stunned, saying, obviously, you got the help you needed. They've all made mistakes, he claims. Like what happened in LA with Audra? Asks Claire. She wagers that it's quite awful, possibly even against the law. She can tell from his expression that she is correct. Holden too wishes to put his past behind him. Claire isn't going to quit. She needs something to permanently silence Audra. The evening in Genoa City unfolded with a cruel elegance, the kind of night that seemed destined to split loyalties, ignite rivalries, and tempt lovers into dangerous confessions. Nikki Newman, in a scarlet gown that brushed the floor with a deliberate sweep of silk, prepared a private surprise for her husband at the ranch, her eyes glittering with a confidence she hadn't felt in weeks. She was determined to give Victor the kind of night where power and love blurred together into something resembling peace, even if only for a stolen few hours. She knew he was consumed by Kane Ashby's maneuverings, by Kyle's reckless disloyalty, and by the looming rivalries with the Abbotts, but tonight she wanted to remind him of what they still had, each other. At the same time, across town at Society, a different kind of storm brewed. Holden Novak sat with measured calm, attempting to rein in the animosity building between Claire Newman, who was slouched with her drink like a glass about to shatter, and Audra Charles, who had swooped in the moment Holden told her to go on ahead. Audra slid into the chair opposite Claire with the smug smile of someone who had arrived only to poke the hornet's nest, and she wasted no time mocking Holden's predictable Vespa pickup line, the same tired charm he had used once upon a time in London. Claire, careless in her state, spilled half her drink down her dress, but instead of embarrassment she only sneered, muttering for Audra to go away while slurring insults that revealed her simmering pain. Audra, delighting in the drunken unraveling, teased that she had run into Kyle earlier and wondered aloud if Claire had dumped him yet, since it was obvious to anyone with eyes that Kyle had been unfaithful. Claire snapped back that she hadn't dumped him at all, and accused Audra of being a bitter, cruel woman, but her denial only made Audra laugh harder. Highly amused, didn't even begin to cover it. Audra leaned in closer and, with that venomous smirk, wondered what Kyle would think if he knew the truth about their brief encounter. Holden tried to cut through the tension, reminding both women they were just buddies, but Claire twisted it by declaring that Kyle and Holden had been talking about what a joke Audra really was, which only stoked the fire. The bar patrons began to notice the raised voices, forks clinking awkwardly against plates as they tried to ignore the feud erupting just a few feet away. Claire, lolling across the bar like a queen exiled from her throne, asked Audra if she ever grew tired of lying, pointing out that Kyle was about to kiss her again tonight, her insinuation loaded, daring Audra to deny what Claire had seen. Audra, refusing to blink, retorted that Holden only stayed in town because of her, not Claire, twisting the knife into Claire's loneliness. The blonde faltered, her bravado cracking as she admitted she was alone and wondered where Nate was, whether even he thought she was as pitiful as everyone else. That was when Audra lunged, fed up with Claire's taunts, and Holden had to step between them, his hands straining as he pushed them apart. The near brawl reminded Audra of her darkest act, her attempt to poison the Newman clan, and when Claire coldly remarked that she could handle her own problems, Audra saw red. Maybe Kyle should open his eyes, Claire said, her voice low, before straightening with an ominous sway and murmuring, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm the one who poses a threat. Perhaps you should keep an eye on yourself. Holden, heart pounding, dragged Claire back as Audra hissed more taunts, and the crowd slowly returned to their meals, though the air remained thick with venom. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Nikki dimmed the lights, the chandeliers casting golden shadows over a table set for two. She raised a glass of non-alcoholic bubbly in Victor's honor as he arrived, weary from the week's battles, his eyes softening at the sight of his wife's carefully orchestrated evening. He hadn't expected pampering, But Nikki was determined to remind him that even titans needed rest. Over dinner, she pressed gently about his recent struggles, mentioning how he had sabotaged Kyle and Claire's romance and how Kane's presence hovered like a storm cloud over their lives. Victor, stoic but candid, admitted he was prepared for Kane. He had no idea who he was truly dealing with, but he would soon find out. When Nikki tried to compare their enduring love with Kyle and Claire's fragile bond, Victor shut it down, unwilling to romanticize a relationship built on betrayal. Yet when he discovered a ring hidden in the final oyster, placed there by Nikki, his defenses cracked. Tears welled in his eyes as Nikki reminded him of their first Christmas together, of the gift he had given her then, and she presented him with a leather jacket meant to mirror the sentiment. He confessed he loved her deeply, but suspected her timing had an ulterior motive, to keep him from meddling further with Kyle. Still, his mind was elsewhere. Kane Ashby. Victor explained his suspicions that Kane was intertwined with Colin's old schemes and that Madame Deleon herself might have been duped, and if Kane didn't play by his rules, his reputation could be obliterated. Nikki, while concerned, pressed closer, reminding him that love was still worth savoring. Victor hugged her fiercely, promising to outdo her surprise, and together they danced, swaying slowly as memories of their youth flickered in his mind. Yet while one Newman danced in love, another sought destruction. Across town, Kane Ashby poured drinks for Michael Baldwin, who had reluctantly agreed to meet him. The two circled each other with verbal barbs, Michael accusing Kane of thriving on turmoil, of orchestrating chaos for his own amusement. Kane, unapologetic, countered with an invitation to become his fixer, insisting that Michael's retirement was nothing more than an escape, that he still craved the game. Michael, cautious, pressed for answers about Kane's recent schemes. Why had he invited him and Lauren to Nice? What did he really want? Kane smirked, flipping the script and demanding to know why Michael had shown up tonight, only to be met with a shrug. He texted Michael an offer, promising something too good to pass up, though he refused to reveal details until attorney-client privilege was secured. Michael, curious but wary, asked if Kane was covering up a crime, but Kane only smirked again, refusing to confirm. His eyes glittered with ambition, hinting that this was only the beginning. The lawyer-turned-retiree found himself drawn in despite himself, the lure of the game too tempting. Later, in the quiet of crimson lights, Holden ordered coffee from Esther for himself and Claire, who sat nursing regret as much as caffeine. She chuckled bitterly about her earlier fight with Audra, confessing that maybe she shouldn't have stooped to that level, though Holden reassured her that Audra deserved every cruel word. Claire sighed, wishing she could escape her past, but then blurted out the unvarnished truth. I tried to kill people. Holden froze, his face a mask of shock, before rallying to remind her that she had gotten help and that everyone made mistakes. But Claire wasn't done. She leaned in, her eyes sharp, and brought up Holden's past in Los Angeles with Audra, wagering that it was bad enough to be criminal. Holden's silence was all the confirmation she needed. She wasn't going to stop pressing until she had the leverage she craved. I need something, she whispered. Something to permanently silence Audra. Holden looked at her, torn between loyalty, guilt, and the shadows of his own sins, and in that moment he knew, Claire Newman wasn't asking for help. She was demanding a weapon, and she wouldn't stop until she got it. The storm inside society had not ended with Holden dragging Claire and Audra apart. It merely shifted into a quieter, more dangerous current. Claire, her hand shaking around the rim of her half-empty glass, kept her gaze locked on Audra with the kind of intensity that suggested she wasn't finished. Holden tried to distract her with platitudes, ordering another round as though another cocktail could wash away the venom. But Claire wasn't drinking to forget. She was drinking to sharpen the edge of her tongue. Do you ever get tired, she muttered at Audra, of living your life like a parasite? The room bristled at the word, a few heads turning back their way. Audra leaned back in her chair, perfectly composed, refusing to give Claire the satisfaction of a reaction. Parasites survive, Audra purred. They thrive when others collapse. Maybe you should take notes. The words stung because they were true in some twisted way. Audra had crawled from scandal to scandal and still found herself sitting at Genoa City's elite tables. Claire, meanwhile, had been forced to stitch her life together after near ruin, her history of attempted murder a stain she could never fully scrub. Holden, sensing the heat rise again, put his hand firmly on Claire's arm. Enough, he said. You've both made your points. But Claire jerked away, her eyes glassy and defiant. She hasn't even begun, she said. Then, with a suddenness that rattled even Audra, Claire leaned across the table and hissed, I could ruin you with one sentence. The entire exchange was raw, sloppy, and far too revealing. Audra froze for only half a heartbeat before recovering with a smile that was equal parts mockery and menace. Go ahead, she whispered. Try me. Holden stood, grabbed Claire's elbow, and physically pulled her away this time, his voice firm as he muttered apologies to nearby patrons. Claire shouted something incoherent over her shoulder, drawing more stares, but by then Holden had her outside in the cool night air, trying to steady her. Audra remained at the table, swirling her drink, plotting her next countermove. At the Newman Ranch, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. The fire flickered in the stone hearth, casting a romantic glow as Victor swayed with Nikki in his arms. The leather jacket she had gifted him rested on the back of a chair, a symbol of their history and of the man she had fallen in love with decades ago. Nikki whispered about their first trip to Paris, about the stolen moments that had defined their marriage, about survival against odds that would have crushed other couples. Victor, for once, allowed himself to be vulnerable, confessing that despite his power, despite his empire, he often feared losing her more than he feared losing any company. Nikki held him tighter, her heart swelling, but she also knew she needed to steer the conversation carefully. Victor's obsession with Kane Ashby was growing. She had seen this look before, the way Victor's mind locked onto an adversary, dissected him, and refused to release until he was destroyed. Darling, she murmured, don't let him become another Jack. Another endless war. Victor pulled back slightly, his eyes steel. Jack Abbott, he said, voice low, was never worthy of being my adversary. Kane Ashby, he is dangerous because he is clever, because he is desperate. He poured himself another glass of sparkling water, staring into it as if divining strategy from the bubbles. Nikki reached for his hand, reminding him that Kane's desperation was exactly what made him vulnerable. Exploit him, then, she said softly, but don't let him consume you. Victor nodded, though Nikki wasn't sure he had truly heard her. He was already 10 moves ahead, his mind racing through scenarios, his wife's warmth grounding him but unable to untangle the web he was determined to weave around Kane. Meanwhile, Kane was laying threads of that very web in a different corner of Genoa City. Michael Baldwin sat back in his chair, studying Kane like a man who knew better than to trust but couldn't resist the puzzle laid before him. Kane had always been charming, even magnetic, but underneath his grin there was an unnerving sharpness. So what's the play? Michael asked finally, breaking their silence. You don't drag me out of retirement for fun. Kane smirked, leaning back, exuding the kind of relaxed menace that came from holding cards no one else could see. Let's just say, he began, Victor Newman has forgotten what loyalty means. He dangled promises, then left me to rot. You know what that means. Michael raised a brow. It means you're planning revenge. Which, let me stop you there, always ends badly for everyone involved. Kane leaned forward, lowering his voice. Not if it's precise. Not if it's controlled. And not if I have a fixer who knows exactly where the skeletons are buried in this town. Michael felt a shiver despite himself. He'd played fixer before, too many times, bending the law in ways that haunted him at night. He had sworn he was done, for Lauren's sake, for his own soul. And yet, the thought of slipping back into the role, of testing his skills against Victor Newman himself, it was intoxicating. Kane saw it in his eyes, the flicker of temptation, and he pressed harder. Think about it, Baldwin. One more game. Just one. You and me. And when it's done, you can go back to your quiet life with Lauren. No one ever has to know. Michael scoffed, though his throat was dry. That's what they all say, he muttered. But Kane grinned like a predator who knew his prey was already caught. At Crimson Lights, Claire leaned over her untouched coffee, her earlier bravado bleeding into despair. I shouldn't have said that, she muttered, referring to her outburst about trying to kill people. Holden sipped his own cup, steady and calm, though his mind was reeling. He had his own ghosts, things from Los Angeles that he never spoke about, especially not with Audra, and Claire's words had pried open a vault he had sworn to keep sealed. We've all done things we regret, he said carefully. That doesn't mean we let them define us. But Claire wasn't done spiraling. She fixed him with a piercing gaze and said, "You think I don't see it? You carry it in your face every time her name comes up. Whatever happened with Audra, it's worse than anything I've done, isn't it?" Holden stiffened, his silence betraying him more than words could. Claire smirked bitterly. "I knew it," she whispered. "You want to bury it, but I won't let you. I need something to shut her up. You're going to give it to me." Holden's jaw tightened. "Careful, Claire," he warned. But Claire only leaned back, her smile wicked now. "Or what? You'll let Audra keep ripping me apart piece by piece? No, Holden. I think it's time you tell me exactly what you and Audra did in LA. Because whatever it is, it's going to save me." Her words hung heavy between them, the weight of shared sins thickening the air. Holden realized with dawning dread that Claire Newman wasn't just drunk and reckless. She was dangerous, not because of her past, but because of the sharpness of her insight. She could strip a person bare with nothing more than persistence. And if he didn't give her something soon, she might force it out of him in ways that would leave them both ruined. Back at the ranch, Nikki and Victor's dance slowed, and Victor kissed her gently, whispering that he loved her more than life itself. Yet even as he held her, his mind was already calculating Kane's next move, already envisioning Michael Baldwin's potential involvement, already threading the chessboard with strategies that would leave him victorious. Nikki, sensing the shift, sighed softly against his chest. She knew this battle wasn't going to end at the dinner table. It was only beginning. And somewhere across town, as Claire whispered threats into Holden's ear and Kane smirked across the table at Michael, the pieces of Genoa City's next great war were sliding into place.